So here we are at Bruno David Gallery in St. Louis on Forsyth Boulevard, downtown Clayton. And we're showing several artists. Cindy Tarr, her works, what we call combined paintings. And that means it combines different elements into the paintings.
As a painter, my personal goal was to try to make paintings without paint. And I have also been very upset about the refuse of our culture, and clothing creates a big footprint of refuse. So I wanted to take things that were being thrown out and make art out of it, as I've done throughout my entire career. In painting, it's really fun to use old clothes because clothing comes in all different textures and styles. Like painting a night sky with blue velvet is very different than any effect you can get with oil paint. And when you find an old coat that's plaid, it looks like a trestle bridge. So it becomes a bridge in the landscape. And that's been the fun, because if I could make a painting out of clothing where the viewer at first does not recognize the clothing, but then has to use their own imagination to see the clothes that they themselves wore once, it becomes more fun, you know? I really tried to use no oil paint, but I failed in the sense that all the paintings have paint still. I have yet to make a painting without any oil paint, but I'm trying, and that's been my fun.
Chris Keller's show right now, it's a very small works on paper. He usually makes larger paintings.
What happened in this particular exhibition is that these small works on paper forced me to kind of rethink how I wanted to approach it. I typically work just in acrylic, and I typically work at a larger scale. So back in early 2000s, I started working on panel and doing a lot of works dealing with surfaces. But what's interesting is I actually came from like a background of watercolors. And I think that comes from my mother as a watercolor artist and my father as an architect. So I kind of have these two kind of polar opposites that kind of collide in me as a person and as an artist. So I approached these works in a very different and unique way. I kind of started that kind of surface. I started doing some of the acrylic painting on top of that, and then I decided I had these fragments left over from all my old panel paintings, and this body of work, for some reason, it triggered a response where I said, I could collage these into these paintings. So in many ways, these works are almost like a 20-year survey of my work. It's taking all these different things that I was doing over the last 20 years, combining them all into one kind of content in terms of what this show's doing.
And William Conger, he's from Chicago, and he's really an artist with a very long established studio practice.
I'm very pleased to be having my second solo show at Bruno David Gallery, and I'm showing newer abstract paintings completed over the past year and a half or so. And these continue the work that I've been doing for a long, long time. My past work has been much larger, but over the past few years I've decided to start doing smaller works, which somehow did present a problem at first because of the compositional challenge to make a work complex enough and interesting enough that even on a small scale it would hold its space and yet not try to overcome and demand to be larger than it really is. So I like the intimacy of the small works. I love the adventure of developing and refining a work bit by bit. I change the color a lot. I think of myself like an orchestra director and bringing up this sound and reducing that sound, and only I'm doing it with color and tone. But it's the same kind of organization. I'm really the director of this composition, but I want it to do the playing.
We are very excited to show these three artists, and we're showing also 3 more artists besides those 3. The show will run until June 26th. And for more information, you can go to brunodavidgallery.com.